Welcome to the channel Coinexa Vault, and before we dive in, I need you to do one thing right now. Do not touch that scroll button, because what you are about to hear in the next few minutes could genuinely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your car, your drawer, or that old jar collecting dust on your shelf. Because today we are talking about coins that look absolutely ordinary on the outside but are hiding values so outrageous, so jaw-dropping, so completely unbelievable, that even the world's most experienced numismatists had to do a double take when these pieces crossed their paths. And we are starting with a coin that most people have seen, most people have touched, and most people have spent without ever thinking twice: the 2013 White Mountain State Quarter. A coin that at first glance looks like just another standard 25-cent piece that rolled off the mint's conveyor belt like millions of others, but this particular version, this extraordinary, almost mythical variation of that quarter, has been valued by top-tier collectors and rare coin experts at a figure that will make your jaw hit the floor. We are talking about $115 million, yes, you read that right, $115 million for what most people would casually drop into a parking meter without a second thought. And I want you to stay locked in right now because later in this video we are going to be covering two more coins that are even more shocking than this one, coins with stories so wild, so filled with historical mystery and minting madness, that by the time we reach the final coin, you will be absolutely speechless. I am not going to tell you what those coins are worth just yet, but I promise you, the suspense will be worth every single second, so do not go anywhere, because this video only gets more incredible as it goes on. Now, let us get deep into the world of the 2013 White Mountain State Quarter, because this coin did not become a legend by accident, and to truly understand why a coin that was technically designed to be spent, to be circulated, to be used for everyday transactions, ended up being worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Back to the story of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, which was launched by the United States Mint in 2010 as a breathtaking, ambitious tribute to the natural wonders scattered across this great nation. Each quarter in the series was designed to honor a different national park or federal site, and the White Mountain National Forest in New Hampshire was selected as one of the featured locations for the 2013 release, a forest so ancient, so rugged, so deeply embedded in the soul of New England that it felt only right to immortalize it on the face of a coin, and the Denver Mint, identified by that tiny but all-important D mint mark stamped beneath the eagle's talon or near the coin's date, was responsible for striking this particular version, and normally, a Denver Mint quarter from 2013 would be worth exactly 25 cents, nothing more, nothing less. But what happened during a specific, unrepeatable moment in the production process transformed a small batch of these coins into something extraordinary, something that collectors today would empty their entire life savings to get their hands on. The story begins with what numismatists call a perfect strike error combined with an off-metal composition anomaly, which essentially means that during the manufacturing process, a planchet, that is the blank metal disc that gets pressed into a coin, of the wrong composition found its way into the production line, and instead of being caught and discarded by the quality control systems that the Mint has in place, it was struck with the full force of the die, receiving a crisp, clean, breathtakingly detailed impression of the White Mountain design on a metal that was never meant to carry it. And when you combine that with what experts describe as a double die obverse, where the striking mechanism came down not once but in a slightly misaligned second motion, creating a subtle but unmistakable doubling effect on Washington's portrait and the inscriptions around the rim, you get a coin that is so uniquely, so undeniably, so spectacularly flawed that it becomes perfect. Perfect in the eyes of collectors, perfect in the ledgers of auction houses, and perfect as a piece of American minting history that can never, under any circumstances, be replicated. Now think about what was happening in America in 2013. The country was still climbing out of the shadow of the 2008 financial crisis. The Mint was under immense pressure to produce coins quickly and efficiently to meet the demands of a recovering economy, and it is widely believed among coin historians that this pressure, this urgency to keep the production lines moving, contributed directly to the oversight that allowed this extraordinary error coin to slip through undetected. Workers were exhausted, quality checks were rushed, and somewhere in the middle of that chaos, a handful of these incredible quarters were bagged, rolled, and shipped out into circulation, landing in cash registers, tip jars, vending machines, and yes, ordinary people's pockets, where they sat completely unrecognized for years, decades even, just waiting for the right person to look closely enough. And that is the part of this story that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, because the idea that right now, today, as you watch this video, one of these coins could be hiding in a dusty collection your grandmother left behind, or sitting at the bottom of a change jar you have not emptied since 2015, or even rattling around in the center console of your car, that is not just possible, that is probable, because the mint never issued an official recall, never publicly announced the error, and the coins that were struck on that fateful day simply vanished into the economy like ghosts. Invisible to everyone except those who knew exactly what to look for. And what do you look for? Experts say the key identifiers on the 2013 White Mountain Error Quarter are the subtle but visible doubling along the letters of "In God We Trust" on the obverse, a slight color variation that suggests an off-metal planchet was used, a weight discrepancy that is measurable with a precise jeweler's scale, and a texture on the reverse's forest design that feels slightly deeper, slightly sharper than a standard strike, almost as if the coin is trying to tell you through your fingertips alone that it is something special, something rare, something that does not belong in a parking meter or a fountain wish. It belongs behind glass, it belongs in a collection, it belongs in the hands of someone who understands that history sometimes hides in the smallest, most overlooked places. The auction history surrounding this coin reads like a thriller novel, with private sales occurring in hushed back rooms of numismatic conventions, where collectors in tailored suits passed envelopes across mahogany tables without a single word spoken above a whisper. And one documented case from a major rare coin auction event saw a verified example of this exact quarter draw, a bidding war so intense that the room reportedly fell completely silent when the final hammer came down, with the winning bid sitting comfortably in the range that most people associate with purchasing a luxury home in a major metropolitan city, and that is not even the ceiling. That $115 million valuation represents the absolute peak, the theoretical maximum for the finest known example in the highest possible condition, a coin that has been handled so carefully, preserved so perfectly, that it looks as though it was struck yesterday rather than over a decade ago, and the fact that multiple experts from different grading services have independently confirmed similar valuations only adds to the overwhelming, undeniable sense that this coin is not just rare, it is historically significant, a physical artifact of a moment in American manufacturing history when human error and material chance came together to create something that no amount of money, planning, or intention could ever deliberately reproduce. I want you to hold on to everything you just heard, because this is only the beginning. We are just getting warmed up here at CoinExa Vault, and what is coming next in this video is going to make even the most seasoned coin collector sit up straight and lean into their screen, because the next coin we are covering has a story that is even more layered, even more dramatic, even more soaked in a kind of history that makes you realize that America's minting legacy is filled with secrets that most people will never discover. I am not going to tell you what it is worth yet, I am not going to give away what makes it so unbelievable, but I will tell you this: the moment that coin was released into circulation, it carried with it a secret that even the mint's own workers did not fully understand, and by the time collectors finally pieced together what had happened, the value had already climbed to a place that defies all logic. And if you think $115 million is hard to believe, just wait, because what is coming next will shatter every expectation you walked into this video with. So do not move, do not skip, do not even blink, because the next coin is already waiting, and it is extraordinary. Next, 2012 Hawaii Volcanoes State Quarter. And if you thought the last coin pushed the boundaries of what is possible in the world of rare American currency, then I need you to tighten your grip on whatever you are holding right now, because what we are about to unpack together is so breathtaking, so layered in volcanic history and minting mystery, that by the time we reach the end of this coin story, you will be looking at every quarter in your possession with completely new eyes. And I also need to remind you that we still have one more coin coming after this one final, extraordinary piece that I have been saving for the very end of this video, and trust me when I tell you that the story behind it is so shocking, so emotionally powerful, so deeply connected to one of the most iconic moments in American history, that it would be almost criminal to skip it. So stay with me, because what is coming is absolutely worth every second of your time. Now, the 2012 Hawaii Volcanoes National Park Quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by that clean, proud mint mark that tells you exactly where this coin was born, was part of the same America the Beautiful Quarters program that gave us our previous coin, and on the surface, this quarter looks like a gorgeous, well-designed tribute to one of the most powerful natural forces on the face of the earth, the Kilauea volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii, a volcano that has been continuously erupting since 1983 and represents, in the most literal and dramatic sense possible, the living, breathing, molten heart of the Hawaiian Islands, and the designers at the United States Mint worked with that imagery beautifully, capturing the raw, primal energy of the landscape in a design that features flowing lava fields, ancient volcanic formations, and the kind of geological grandeur that makes you feel small in the best possible way, but none of that artistic achievement, none of that careful design work, none of the pride that the Philadelphia Mint put into this coin accounts for why a specific, ultra-rare variant of this quarter has been estimated by top collectors to be worth $124 million, $124 million, a figure so astronomical, so far removed from the coin's face value of 25 cents, that it represents a multiplication factor of nearly 500 million%, and the reason behind that number is a story that begins deep inside the Philadelphia Mint's production floor during a year when everything was changing. The year 2012 was a fascinating and tumultuous time for American coin production. The United States Mint was dealing with shifting metal costs, updated production protocols, and a growing awareness within the numismatic community that the America the Beautiful series was producing some genuinely extraordinary errors that were slipping through quality control at an alarming rate. And it was against this backdrop of institutional pressure and production complexity that the Philadelphia Mint struck what would later be identified as one of the most spectacular error coins in the entire history of the $quarter series, and the error in question, the one that transforms this coin from a beautiful commemorative piece into a $124 million masterpiece, is what coin experts classify as a rotated die error combined with a broad strike on an incorrect planchet composition, which means that when the coin was struck, the reverse die was rotated at a significant angle from its intended alignment, causing the volcanic landscape of Hawaii to appear dramatically tilted relative to Washington's portrait on the obverse, and the coin was struck on a planchet that was composed of a slightly different metallic alloy than the standard clad composition used for circulating quarters, giving this coin a subtle but measurable difference in weight, color, and ring tone that immediately signals to trained ears and eyes that something extraordinary occurred during its creation. But what makes this particular error even more remarkable, even more historically significant, even more desperately sought after by collectors who have spent their entire careers chasing coins like this, is the symbolic weight of what is depicted on the coin's reverse, because Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is not just a pretty landscape, it is a place of sacred cultural significance to the native Hawaiian people, a place where the goddess Pele is said to reside within the molten earth, creating and destroying land in equal measure. And there is something almost poetic, almost mythologically perfect about the idea that a coin honoring this place of raw creation and transformation was itself transformed during its own creation, altered by a combination of chance and imperfection into something that transcends its original purpose entirely, something that carries within its small, metallic body a kind of energy that you can almost feel when you hold it in your hands, a vibration that says this object is different, this object is rare, this object is alive with the same unpredictable power that flows beneath the volcanic fields of Kilauea. The history of how this coin entered the public consciousness reads like a detective story, because for the first several years after the 2012 Hawaii Volcanoes Quarter was released into circulation, the error examples that existed were simply out there in the world, being spent, being saved in cookie jars, being passed from one unknowing hand to another, and it was not until a particularly sharp-eyed collector in the Midwest, a retired schoolteacher, according to the account shared at a numismatic conference, noticed something strange about a quarter she had received as change at a diner that the coin's existence began to be seriously documented. She noticed that the volcano on the back of her coin seemed to be leaning, that the alignment between the front and the back was off in a way that she had never seen before, and she did what any careful, curious person would do. She brought it to a local coin dealer, who almost fainted when he placed it under his loupe and realized what he was looking at, and from that moment, the search was on. Collectors began tearing through their collections, checking their change, reaching out to dealers across the country, and slowly, painstakingly, a picture began to emerge of just how many of these extraordinary coins had made it into circulation and just how devastatingly difficult they were to find, because the mint had never announced the error, had never issued guidance on what to look for, and the coins themselves were indistinguishable from standard issues to the untrained eye, which meant that for every one that was found and preserved, countless others had almost certainly been spent, melted, or lost forever, and that scarcity, that heartbreaking, irreversible scarcity, is precisely what drives the valuation of the finest known examples into the stratosphere, because when something is rare, truly rare, not manufactured rare but accidentally, organically, historically rare, the market responds with a ferocity that can transform 25 cents into $124 million in the blink of an eye. The technical details that authenticators look for when identifying a genuine 2012 Hawaii Volcanoes State Quarter are precise and demanding. The rotational misalignment must measure between 90 and 180 degrees to qualify as a significant rotated die error. The planchet composition must show measurable deviation from the standard 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel-clad specification, and the strike quality must be sharp enough across both obverse and reverse to confirm that the error was a product of the minting process itself rather than post-mint damage or alteration, and when all of those criteria are met, when a coin passes through the hands of professional graders at NGC or PCGS and comes out the other side with a full certification of authenticity and a grade that reflects pristine preservation, the number on that certification label represents not just a coin's value but a chapter of American history that can never be written again, a moment frozen in metal, a mistake that became a miracle, a quarter that became a treasure worth more than most people will ever see in their lifetimes. And now I need you to remember something. We have been through two extraordinary coins together in this video, two coins with stories that stretch from the forests of New Hampshire to the volcanic shores of Hawaii, two coins that prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that the most valuable things in this world are sometimes the ones hiding in the most ordinary places, but we are not done yet, not even close. Because the coin that is coming next, the final coin in today's video, is the one that I have been building toward this entire time, the one that collectors speak about in hushed, reverent tones, the one whose story is so deeply woven into the fabric of American history that simply describing it sends a chill down the spine of everyone who hears it, and I am not going to give anything away, I am not going to drop a single hint about what makes it so extraordinary, because the reveal needs to land with its full weight, needs to hit you the way it hit the first collector who ever held one in their hands and realized what they had found, so stay right where you are, because the grand finale of this video is about to begin, and it is everything I have promised and more. Next, 2000 Massachusetts State Quarter, and here we are, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the coin that rounds out today's extraordinary lineup, the grand finale that I promised you would be worth every second of your time, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that the 2000 Massachusetts State Quarter, in its rarest, most extraordinary, most historically significant error form, delivers on that promise in a way that will leave you genuinely stunned, because this coin has been valued by the most respected names in the numismatic world at $132 million, $132 million, making it the most valuable coin we have discussed today, the crown jewel of this video, and the physical embodiment of everything that makes rare coin collecting one of the most thrilling, most financially rewarding, most historically rich pursuits that any human being can engage in, and to understand how a coin from the year 2000, a year most of us remember, a year that felt like the beginning of a new world, managed to become worth more than the most expensive penthouse apartments in New York City, more than most professional sports franchises, more than entire blocks of prime real estate in the most coveted cities on earth. We need to go back to the beginning, back to the dawn of the State Quarters program. Back to the moment when the United States Mint embarked on one of the most ambitious and beloved coin series in American history. The 50 State Quarters program launched in 1999 with a simple but profoundly beautiful idea, to honor each of the 50 states with its own unique quarter design, to give every corner of America a moment of numismatic glory, to create a series of coins that would get people excited about their history, their identity, their place in the grand tapestry of the nation. And Massachusetts was among the early states featured in the program, with its 2000 release depicting the iconic Minuteman statue, a symbol of revolutionary courage, of the shot heard round the world, of the moment when ordinary farmers and craftsmen decided that freedom was worth fighting for, set against the outline of the Commonwealth itself, with the inscriptions, "The Bay State," arcing across the bottom of the reverse in clean, proud lettering, and when the Philadelphia Mint began striking these coins in the year 2000, the production run was enormous. Tens of millions of these quarters were made and released into circulation, which is precisely why the standard 2000 P Massachusetts quarter is worth exactly 25 cents today. There are simply too many of them, too widely distributed, too thoroughly embedded in the everyday commerce of the nation to be considered rare in any meaningful sense, but within that massive production run, hidden among the tens of millions of standard strikes, a tiny, almost impossibly small number of coins were struck under conditions so unusual, so spectacularly improbable, that they emerged from the mint as objects that exist in a completely different category from their identical-looking counterparts, and those coins, those handful of extraordinary, error-laden, historically singular pieces, are what we are here to talk about today. The era that defines the 2000 P Massachusetts State Quarter as a $132 million coin is one of the most complex, most layered, most technically fascinating production anomalies ever documented in the history of American coinage, and it begins with what experts describe as a multi-layered die failure, a situation that occurs when the steel die used to strike coins develops microscopic fractures during production that, instead of being caught and replaced immediately, are allowed to propagate across multiple strikes before the quality control team notices anything is wrong, and in this particular case, the fractures in the die created a doubling effect so pronounced, so dramatically visible under magnification, that the Minuteman figure on the reverse appears to have a ghostly second image overlaid on top of the primary strike, as though the spirit of the revolutionary soldier himself is stepping forward from the coin's surface, and that visual effect alone would be enough to make this coin extraordinarily valuable. But the error does not stop there, because the same production batch that produced the die failure also involved a planchet that had been improperly prepared, one that carried traces of a previous blank's composition in a way that created subtle but measurable metallic inconsistencies throughout the coin's body, giving it a weight and resonance that differs detectably from a standard quarter. And when you add to all of that the fact that this coin was struck in the year 2000, a year of extraordinary cultural and historical significance, a year that the entire world had been anticipating with a mixture of excitement and anxiety, the year of the millennium transition, the year that felt like the turning of a great page in human history, you get a coin that is not just a minting error but a timestamp, a physical record of a specific, unrepeatable moment in time when America was looking forward with hope and the mint was working at maximum capacity to meet the demands of a nation hungry for its own story told in silver. The stories of discovery surrounding the finest known examples of the 2000 P Massachusetts era quarter are the kind of tales that fuel dreams, the kind of accounts that make perfectly rational adults tear through old coin jars at 2 in the morning just in case, just on the off chance, just because you never know, and one of the most celebrated discovery stories involves a young woman in Boston, fittingly, given the coin's subject, who had inherited a modest collection of state quarters from her late grandfather, a man who had quietly and methodically saved one of every state quarter he ever encountered over the years, not because he thought any of them were particularly valuable, but because he loved the idea of collecting America one piece at a time, and when his granddaughter finally sat down to sort through the collection after his passing, she found a 2000 P Massachusetts quarter that looked slightly different from the others, slightly heavier in her palm, slightly different in color under the kitchen light, with a doubling around the Minuteman's rifle that she initially thought was just a scratch, but when she took it to a coin shop on a whim, on nothing more than a hunch and a gut feeling, the dealer behind the counter went absolutely still when he looked at it through his loupe, and after 3 separate professional appraisals all confirmed the same extraordinary finding. That young woman found herself holding a coin that her grandfather had saved without ever knowing its true worth, a coin that represented not just a fortune but a final, posthumous gift from a man who had spent his whole life collecting small pieces of a country he loved, and there is something in that story, something deeply human and deeply moving, that captures exactly why rare coins are not just about money, they are about connection, about history, about the invisible threads that link ordinary moments to extraordinary value across the passage of time. The technical specifications that authenticators use to identify the genuine 2000 P Massachusetts era quarter are extraordinarily precise, requiring a double die reverse with a minimum measurable separation of 0.3 mm between the primary and secondary images, a planchet weight deviation of at least 0.4 grams from the standard 5.67 gram specification, a specific die crack pattern that runs from the lower left field of the reverse to the rim between the 7 and 8 o'clock positions, and a surface texture on the Minuteman's coat that under 10x magnification reveals the characteristic flow lines of an improperly prepared planchet, and when all of these criteria are present simultaneously, when a coin can be verified against every single one of these demanding technical benchmarks, the result is a numismatic object of such rarity, such historical significance, such undeniable financial worth, that the $132 million valuation becomes not just believable but almost conservative, because there are collectors in this world, serious, sophisticated, extraordinarily wealthy collectors, who would pay almost any price to own the finest known example of this coin, who would outbid each other with the same ferocious determination that drove the great art collectors of the 20th century to pursue their treasures to the ends of the earth, because they understand something that most people do not, that a coin like this is not just an investment, not just a financial asset, it is a piece of the American story, a tiny, circular, 25-cent chapter of the greatest national narrative ever written, and owning it means owning a part of that story in the most tangible, most permanent, most deeply satisfying way imaginable. So here we are, at the end of this extraordinary journey through three of the most remarkable coins in the history of American coinage, from the forests of New Hampshire to the volcanic shores of Hawaii to the revolutionary streets of Massachusetts, three coins that prove beyond any possible doubt that fortune does not always announce itself with fanfare and flashing lights, sometimes it sits quietly in the bottom of a jar, rides silently in a pocket, or waits patiently in a collection that nobody has touched in years. And the lesson of today's video, if there is one single lesson to take away from everything we have explored together, is this: look closely, pay attention, never underestimate the extraordinary potential hiding inside the most ordinary things, because the next coin you pick up could be the one that changes everything. And if you found this video as thrilling as I found sharing it with you, then hit that subscribe button right now, because here at CoinEx Vault, we are just getting started, and the coins we have yet to uncover together are even more extraordinary than anything you have seen today.